think we're live. Hi, everybody. Hi, it's Eve Oxberry here, Editor of Professional Beauty, and as you can see, this way, I'm here with Hellen Ward. I think most of you know Hellen, because if you read Professional Beauty, you'll have seen Hellen as a regular columnist in there for many years now. But as you probably know, Helen's also the Managing Director of Richard Ward Hair and Metro Spa in London. She's also a trustee of the Hair and Beauty charity, which I think we'll touch on a bit later. They're doing some fantastic work at the moment in this difficult time. And she's also on board of, or an ambassador for NHBF, who are also doing tons of amazing work at the moment. So welcome, Hellen. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, you look ever so brown.
I was just saying I've been out on my balcony, just making the most of lockdown by trying to stay outdoors as much as possible.
That sounds like a plan.
So, Hellen, I know we're going to talk a little bit about what you've been doing with your salon during this difficult time, in terms of kind of preparing for reopening, or how you've dealt with things like access to some of the grants and that sort of thing. And then we're going to open up to questions from anyone watching. So, yeah, if we can kick off. I know, obviously, this enforced closure period for salons has put a huge strain on everyone's business. So how have you managed things for the salon in the short term? So things like, your staff furloughed, and have you accessed grants and that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, it was interesting actually, because we actually shut on the Friday, at close of business on the Friday, when, if you remember, there was the briefing with Richie Sunak, and he actually used the word shops were closing. That was the night the bars and restaurants shut. So we lost one day's trade, in effect, the next day, and then obviously it all the enforced lockdown came on the Monday. We decided to close early because we were finding that some clients were actually not very impressed that we were open. They were glad we were open, but they weren't very impressed we were open. It's becoming a bit of a not a very good look to actually be trading. So we shut on Friday night. We all forgot to social distance in the bar and all hugged each other and went like that, and it was awful. Anyway, furloughed everyone from the Monday. So obviously we have over 100 staff. So we took the decision to furlough very, very quickly, as soon as we could. But we set up a WhatsApp group chat, and I'm sure everybody that's on this today will have done the same thing with their team, and it's just been an amazing way for us all to keep in touch. So we, as I say, we shut down on the Monday. We have tried we tried before that to contact our landlord to see if they would defer our rent. Our landlord is one of the wealthiest landlords in London. Our rent is £250,000 a year, and they have deferred the quarter until June 22, which doesn't really help us because we still owe it. So that's been difficult. We then tried to access bank loans. I'm sure everyone's been in the same boat, and I'm going to be really honest today, as I always am. And that's been really difficult, jumping through hoops to every time you fulfill what they're asking you for, another load of things come through that they need. And that's been really, really difficult. So, it's been a challenging time. And our business is made up of just a few people that are self-employed, probably 4 or 5, who haven't been able to access any of the funds that they could have accessed because they've got profits of over £50,000. So it's very difficult for them. Our barman, our chef all have their own businesses. So that's been very difficult too.
Okay, no, it's certainly an incredibly tough time, and I think everything's so new as well in terms of trying to access any of the support out there. Is there anything that you have managed to be successful with and that you can share in terms of kind of getting access to any of it?
Well, we haven't had our insurance claim denied yet, fingers crossed. So we'll have to wait and see about that. Initially, with the business interruption, I know that from all the online chats I've been involved with, that was becoming like everything under the sun. Every disease under the sun was listed, but it didn't cover COVID.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge issue for a lot. But the denial of access one, although that's where we're trying to go for next. But my sister has got a business, and she has been told by her insurer that unless there is a blockade in her doorway, then denial of access wouldn't count. So they're trying everything to get out of it. And I do understand in the insurance industry, if all these claims are successful, it's going to then drive them under. But, you know, we pay our insurance and you know, that's what we pay it for. Yeah. I think the interesting thing is something that I did want to flag up is that it's very tempting when things are very tight financially to cancel all your standing orders and everything else. But, you know, that really is not a good thing to do. Because really, if you cancel your insurance and stuff like that, and then you do try and make a claim, really difficult.
Yeah.
So don't cancel your direct debit for your insurance. That's the last thing to cancel.
Are there any ways that you have found or that you would advise people to look at for cutting costs? If they're not, obviously not advising them to cancel these sorts of important direct debits, but are there any other things, like initial things they could make cost savings on?
Well, the suppliers that we deal with have been fantastic. L'Oreal, for one, have said everyone can just pay, you know, when they can, and I think they've put that live on all their social media and all their platforms, which is fantastic. So suppliers, I think, have to be understanding. You know, we are, the difficulty for our sector, I think, is that we're sort of, we cash trade, we're cash cows, so we don't have like invoices that we're expecting to be paid from 30 days ago, 60 days ago, 90 days ago. In manufacturing, you would have that. So, you know, I think the fact that we are always cash based in terms of we trade on the Monday's takings are in the till is great, but it also means that we haven't got much of a safety net, because it's not like we're getting invoices that have come in that were due for payment and stuff. So manufacturers, I think, should be really understanding and helpful. And if they're not being understanding and helpful, then it's probably time to change supplier.
Absolutely. I think certain suppliers are doing a lot at the moment. We're working with a few for some content over on the Professional Beauty site about various suppliers that are doing things like making deliveries for salons and giving salons some of the commission on sales and things if they are able to continue trading in any way, and that sort of thing. So I think, yeah, definitely worth talking to suppliers and seeing what they've got lined up, because they're all reacting quite quickly to this as well, by the sounds of it.
And also things like that we put in place, VAT payments to HMRC, they are actually very understanding. And I actually have to say, I think the government have been amazing. I really do. I think they have done so much, so very, very quickly. I think it's going to be very hard at the end of this crisis to ever look back and say, I think it was Bill Gates that said this the other day, and it really rang true with me. There's no company, there's no country that's going to look back at the way they did things and give themselves an A star, you know, because in hindsight, obviously, yes, we should have perhaps locked down before, and we should have, you know, social distance before, etc., etc. But HMRC have been very good, and we rang them and said, look, you know, we've got our VAT payment due, but we've got payroll to meet. We had 1 week's trade. We were paying the staff last Monday before the HMRC website even was up and running, and we all were worried it was going to crash, and it didn't, and it was fantastic, thank God. But when we rang them and said, look, can we just be late with our payment? They said, yeah, how about pay it in July? So, and they were brilliant. And we were like, oh, okay, yeah, if you don't mind, if we can wait till July, that'd be great. And that's fine, just call. And if you can't pay it in July, just call us. So I think the thing is, keeping the people that really count, such as your suppliers, HMRC, keeping them informed of where you're standing. And if they know that you can't pay, they'll be very understanding and, in my experience, very good, but they do need to be told. So that's something, we've all got time to do that at the moment. You know, they have been really good.
Excellent. Well, that's some positivity amongst all this. And because I was going to ask, actually, amongst all this gloom, obviously there are some is of light at the moment. I think we're all finding different ways to live our lives and different ways to work where possible. So what are some of the businesses, I suppose?
I don't know how I had time to go to work. Do you?
I know what you mean.
Yoga has kept me sane, I have to say. An hour's yoga, meditation in the morning, meditation in the afternoon, and Bombay Sapphire, I'm not going to lie, at night.
Other gyms are available. Fantastic. But yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think particularly for businesses that have been forced to close, at least it's given a bit of time for reflection and time to take a look at what you are doing. And
absolutely. I mean, I did something the other day. There was a guy on Question Time on the night of lockdown that said, 10 years I've spent building my business, and shut it down just like that. And I don't think we have shut it down just like that. I think we've just pressed pause. And I think the thing is, I have never been so busy. We have totally, me and my key team have just looked completely with fresh eyes at all of our HR. When do you ever get a chance to properly do that, uninterrupted, and just go, is this what we're telling staff good looks like? And if it isn't right, new bits of law come out, and it's you add it into your existing thing, and then before you know it, you've got something that doesn't really make sense. So to look at that all with fresh eyes and to go, okay, this is a real chance to reset the business. When we start to trade again, restructure it, reset it, reboot it, and get it to where it needs to be, and it will never be the same again. I think that's really important to remember. Absolutely. And so things that have to go into your contract and everything, your contract employment, your staff handbook, now is the time to put all those procedures. Never will you ever have another 3 months where you've got time to really look at it, analyse it, pick it to pieces, and then put it back into something that's going to work for the next 10 years. And that's what I've spent my time doing. And drinking gin and tonic.
Good balance.
Good balance, exactly.
So can you share any examples of any changes that you have made or that you are making to help you come back stronger or change the way you're working?
I mean, I think the key thing for me is looking at the business in a different way. Because I don't think before, we used to look at employees as a whole. But I think we have to be realistic and say there are turnover producing employees and then there are non-turnover producing employees. And the more your sort of price point, the more you're trying to charge, the more non-turnover producing employees you need. Fact. But maybe the way you structure the way they work has got to change as well. So I'm putting all that into practice now, and trying to sort of, in my head, divorce the two things. These people produce turnover, so they almost come under a separate sort of group, and these are the key people, and they're just as important, but maybe the way we structure their pay, their incentives, their bonuses, their performance is going to change. So that's what we've done, and I actually, I know it sounds nuts, but I'm quite excited to go back and reboot the business in a much more productive way, maybe a bit more pared down. It will have to be until we get back to where we need to be, which I think is something we've got to talk about next, Eve, like when we're opening and how we phase that in and how we do that, because that's an issue that's coming up all the time. But now is the time where we're not trading to get that right and the structure right. Maybe start thinking of the two things as separate things that need to combine, but the way they used to combine is not going to work anymore.
Sure. So really just assessing the way you do everything, I think, at the moment is quite important.
Absolutely.
So about this preparing, I suppose, to reopen, what do you think the changes might be? I know it's hard to say at this stage, but do you think that we'll need to change the way salons operate? Do you think consumers will be changing the way that they want to interact with us? And
yes, I think it's really interesting, and you've probably seen as well. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there, whether it's fake news or not, I don't know, but you know that we're going to be opening from the 11th of May, with larger companies opening towards June the 15th. Now, whether that's just, you know, hype or fake news, I'm not sure. But the fact is, we do have to have some sort of goal to work towards and some sort of plan. And it's not as simple as just turning up for work, if it is on the 11th of May, putting the key in the door and everybody goes back to normal, because that's not going to be the case. The biggest concern for us is if we have restrictions on social distancing with such a large site with over 100 staff, then we're going to have to change the times that we work. We're going to have to create shifts. We're going to maybe have to open from 8 till 8, have some people working from 8 till 4 and others phasing it in that way. We're going to have to look at who needs to start working first, because we won't have room if we have to distance to have everybody back in full pelt. But the worry about that is that there won't be any social distancing on my rent. Are we still paying my overheads, our service charges, our rent, all those costs we have will be full pelt, but the business won't be. So I think the issue is going to be, do we then have a choice to make? If closure is no longer enforced, will we then have a choice to keep some people furloughed while we phase in going back to full pelt? But in answer to your question, will we ever be full pelt like we were before? I can't imagine it.
Lost Helen there. Back, so you just lost for a second there.
Have you got me now?
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
I can see your picture slightly. Oh, I think you're back there. Yes, I can see you properly now. Sorry, we lost you briefly there.
So I just think, full pelt. What does full pelt look like? You know, and beauty, I think, particularly. It's the spa I'm most concerned about, because, you know, the treatments in the spa are very close contact, much more sort of invasive in terms of safety procedures. You know, that worries me greatly, the spa.
So, I mean, obviously we don't know, the 11th of May date is a rumour at the moment, and we don't know whether there will be any kind of phasing in of Salon so far. But would you say then, in order to prepare for different eventualities that we might face, that people should put together a contingency plan, I suppose? So one for if we do have initial phased in reopening, and one for if we go fully open again a bit later down the line?
Absolutely, and we've been working on that for the last 3 or 4 days now. You know, what do we do? I mean, the phones are going to go crazy. How many receptionists can we have in at any one time? How much distance we have between them? Do we open up? Do we go in and try and get through some of the phone calls before the 11th of May? You know, there's a hell of a lot to think about. Even just the basic stuff like turning off our aircon and our tanks. Our water tanks are enough to heat 2 hospitals, apparently, or they were when they were put in. So they don't just turn on like that. They need a week to be up and running, and you know, then you've got Legionnaires' disease concerns, and you know, we won't just be able to go live just like that. And even that's the scale that we're doing it at, but even if I was doing it on a smaller scale, it would still be difficult.
So what sorts of things have you been thinking about in terms of putting a plan into place? Would you have any measures to social distance to a degree, or to have new hygiene measures? Anything?
We've ordered a load of masks. We've had them on order for a long time now. So we've got masks, we've got PPE, we've got rotors, we've got a phased thing of how we're going to contact customers and how that's going to look, and putting the receptionists on shifts, and how we're going to get through the volume of calls, and whether we can go in and access the software to book the appointments ahead of time. I mean, there's a hell of a lot to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, like you said before, kind of speaking to suppliers and putting in a timeline and just being prepared if we don't get too much notice for some of these things, like we kind of didn't with the clothes.
Yeah, we've got to start thinking about it now. I mean, we have a brush range, Tangle Angel, and our distributor in China has actually managed to source some really good masks and PPE, which he's sending to us. Whatever excess we have, we will donate, obviously, to the NHS, but we will have to keep what we need to protect our staff as well.
Sure. Absolutely.
So the masks that are coming, I don't know what grade they're going to be. I know someone's just asked that. I really don't know. I really don't. I don't know what the grade they're going to be. He tells us they are, top grade. So if they're over the grade that we need, we'll donate them. But it would be lovely to think that we can use them to help our staff keep safe as well.
Absolutely. Because I think there have been some rumours, particularly about in other countries, may initially start being able to go back but do one-to-one clients first, maybe go to clients' homes before salons.
Yes, that rumour is apparently, because there was a rumour going around that in Spain, hair salons were considered an essential service, which we would all agree they are, hair and beauty salons, and so that they didn't close, but they did close. They absolutely did close. But apparently Spain is opening for client appointments, one-to-one appointments, like going to homes and things like that, next week or shortly, I think the first week of May. So whether that's true or not, again, I don't know. But I also have a bit of a concern about that. Home visits, it could also be risky for your employees. So you need to make sure that they are fully insured for doing that, and your insurer. So it's a question I'd have to ask, if we're insured for them to do that at this time, then yes, I would. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? On our groups chat, there is not anyone who, out of our staff, that hasn't been affected by this. We've had one of our own girls in ICU, and luckily she's come out again, and that was really, really, really concerning. And so many of them have lost aunties, uncles, and things like that, and it's just affected everything. And I do think business for our sector particularly will never be the same again. We'll have to really be a lot more stringent. Funny enough, Gina, who's our spa director, just before this all hit, she had a client coming in for a facial, and the woman was streaming with cold, streaming with flu. And Gina checked her into the room, and she was doing some stock with me, and she came back out and she said, you know what, it's like, now I'm going to catch that, whatever she's got, and that's going to go all around the air conditioning in the salon, So it's not just protecting, really it's not a good look to be doing clients who are asymptomatic or symptomatic. And then how do you get around that?
Absolutely. And I suppose it's about being obvious that you're protecting both your staff and your clients. So when we do open, having really clear policies, but also perhaps having a policy that if a client is feeling unwell, I think like we did close to the closure period, people were asking clients if they felt unwell in any sense, or if they're coming with anyone, to cancel or postpone their appointments. And I think we may need to at least stick with that for a while on reopening.
Unfortunately, this woman came in before that it got that bad. But it is something we all have that you're locked in a treatment room with someone and they're unwell, and it's I think the way we all interact in every environment, business and anything else, is going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got quite a few questions coming through. So if anyone else has any questions, do type them in the box if you're in the webinar platform, or do let us know on Facebook, because we'll get those questions over here too. And before we just go to questions, I know I was just going to mention, obviously I mentioned at the beginning that you're a trustee of the Hair and Beauty charity, and I know we are looking to do a bit of a panel with the charity next week to talk about some of the good work it's doing, but also some tips from the experts there. But I don't know if you could tell us a little bit, because obviously it's a really difficult time for so many salons at the moment, and the Hair and Beauty charity, if anyone doesn't know, does help out professionals who've fallen on hard times. and it's the official charity partner of Professional Beauty Group as well. So I know that you've had more calls than ever probably during this time to the charity, and it's impossible to help everyone, but I know you have kind of done some good work already there, so I don't know if you can tell us.
We have, and we meet every Tuesday. We conference call the trustees and the board, and we look through every single case, and we have seen a massive upsurge, but we have also ring-fenced funds, particularly to help those, and a lot of the time it's people that fall between that net. They're not employees, so they can't claim any pay. They're not paying themselves enough under their terms of their employment. They're paying themselves through dividends, so they slip through that net as being self-employed. So some of it is just very much short-term help that they need. And you know, we did have a case the other day where somebody was saying that their landlord, they were renting a room, a treatment room, and even though obviously they were closed, the landlord was still charging them their beauty room rent, and you know, not good, very upsetting, but brilliant that we're all there to help, and that we have ring-fenced funds, and we look at every single case and everyone that comes to us for help. And some of it is just, as I said, very much short term, but there are lots of things that you can do. And the one thing that we do say is make sure you've accessed all the help that there is out there, because there are grants that you can get, and the grants are assessed on your rateable value. So it's not what rate you pay, but your rateable value of your shop. So, and the grants are issued quite quickly, and they're issued by the local council. So somebody I know has got a salon group of 5, and they were able to get grants for 3 of them because the rateable value fell below the 50,000, so they could obtain the grant. So there is help out there, and the NHBF, I have to say, yes, I'm an ambassador for them, but I'm a member, and I use them like everybody else does, and they have been sensational. Hilary Hall, amazing. And just keeping everyone informed, and even non-members, she's made the information on COVID-19 accessible to them as well. So there is lots and lots of help out there. You just need to know where to look for it. And gov.uk has been fantastic. I'm on there all the time, just making sure we're doing it right.
Excellent, and it's being updated constantly. We've actually got a support page on Professional Beauty website as well. If you have a look at professionalbeauty.co.uk, I think it's on the navigation, but /coronavirus support, coronavirus guide, sorry, otherwise. But yeah, there's links out to all the NHBF support and some of the government support and what grants people are eligible to apply for. But it's changing so much that it's great to kind of keep updated. So yeah, we've had loads of questions through. I'm going to just click through to some of the ones on Facebook. We've had quite a few through from there. Claire Dorochak has asked, how can we arrange the diary ready to reopen? I work alone and some clients are already asking to be a priority. That's interesting. So I suppose if you are going to have, once you reopen, obviously it's going to be super busy. Yeah, how can you kind of plan?
Oh gosh, I think we're going to open on Sundays, and that's something I have never done before. But if we can't fit all of our staff in at any one time, we're going to have to open from 8 till 8. Normally we're open from 9 till 6, but we'll be trading from 8 till 8 in shifts, and we'll be opening on Sundays. And it's really hard, isn't it? Because how do you please everybody? We also are offering any of our clients that key work or work for the NHS a free appointment for a blow dry for the ladies or a gents cut for the men, which we did the minute the NHS were, you know, they've been so fantastic and stepped up to the plate. So they're a priority. We've got a priority wait list. We've got all our regular clients. We've also got our celebrity clients who are saying, you know, I'm reading the news tonight and I've got rooms, I've got to get in. When are you opening? It's really, really hard. And I just think we have to plan it. And this is why, whether it's the 11th of May or not, it doesn't really make any odds. We need to sit and work out, right, what do we need to do? Who needs to work when in order to maintain the correct social distancing? Let's just assume we have to do that because it's pretty much set in stone, I think. So what does that look like? And you know, maybe everyone, until we can get back to some semblance of whatever normal looks like, we're going to have to work in shifts, and people are going to have to change their days off and their structure of their day in order to do that.
Absolutely. And we've had another comment that says, I think that once we reopen, gloves and masks will be mandatory for all treatments, which is an interesting one. Do you think that that might be true? And do you think that that can work with certain treatments? You know, we've got obviously treatments like massage. I'm not sure that they'd work there.
Yes. Do you know, it's really interesting. The Vita, who's our pedicurist, the one who's been in ICU, thankfully now is fully okay. But she was the Russian Federation world champion or something. And when she came to work for us many years ago now, she just automatically wore gloves for every service and every treatment, sprayed her nail files, disinfected this, disinfected that, disinfected foot files. And Pinky, who also works with her, always did that as well. And so it became such a bad look not to do it. So we're pretty hot on the gloves and the masks. But as you say, there are some treatments that just are a tactile treatment that is just not going to be the same. You know, you can't. Also, shampooing at the backwash, which is something massive for us. If you've ever had anyone try to wash your hair with gloves on, it actually hurts. Yeah. It really does. But I do think where possible and wherever we can, we are going to see a massive increase. And I think that's a really good point.
And I think if it becomes the new normal, I guess clients will need to adjust their expectations in the same way. It might not be the touch that they're used to, but they'll probably understand.
Yeah, we have a right to be safe as well, don't we? So.
Absolutely. There's another question from Sarah Virgo who said, well, what if staff are reluctant to be flexible on shifts? I suppose how much can you push them if you're looking to massively increase your hours to meet demand? What sort of...
Well, I think this is where you have to take a look at your contracts of employment and, you know, and look at what it says. And if it doesn't say what you want it to say, it's got to say what you want it to say, which is, you know, your hours of work and your days off and your shifts are subject to change to suit the needs of the business. That's the terminology you need in there. You know, just because you've always had a Wednesday off, well, it's not going to work like that anymore. You know, yeah. So look at your contracts, and if your wording isn't flexible enough, and the NHBF again have a fantastic contract which you can work from and a fantastic staff handbook, then maybe it's time to change it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's another question over on Facebook from Hellen Ward. It says, would it be wise to increase prices or not at this time? I normally put prices up in April every year.
Yeah, no, I think there's going to be, I don't think we should underestimate the reluctance of customers. I think a lot of people are going to be very reluctant to come into the salons. You know, we've got this wonderful wait list. We think we're going to be so busy, but there is also going to be a reluctance of people to risk their health in a space where you've got close contact treatments going on. So I don't think it's a good look or wise to do anything with your pricing structure until the storm has passed, and that might be some time. So just because you've always done something doesn't mean to say it's the right thing to do. That's what I looked at with my HR. You know, just because we've always done it like this doesn't mean to say this is the right thing to do.
Absolutely, and I think there's so many companies that are discounting or giving services for free to support people during this time. It's hard to be the one that kind of goes in with a higher price point, and it won't necessarily be viewed in the same way it normally would.
Absolutely, I think you have to be careful with that.
There's quite a few people who've put comments over on Facebook saying, I'm actually really scared of starting back for various reasons. Some people fall into a high-risk group, but clients are contacting me now asking when they can book appointments. People saying, I don't want to be among the first to go to work because, you know, we are going to come into close contact with people. I suppose, you know, what would your thoughts be on that? I suppose, how can people protect themselves and make sure that we can return in a safe way? Is there anything anything more we can be doing?
I think it's so difficult because I think we don't know the nature of the virus itself. We don't know how it's going to mutate and how it's going to change and how it's going to affect us. And I get that, you know, it is a bit frightening to go back to work, actually. It was interesting, I was reading something about mental health during lockdown, and people were very much, the sort of key was about being locked down was what was making the mental health issues come up. But I don't think it's the lockdown necessarily. I think it's the fear of what's life going to be like after this all. What do I do when I go back to work? Am I going to be exposed? Am I going to be at risk? And there's a lot of issues around fear about businesses. You know, will I have a business left? I mean, only the strong are going to survive this. A lot of businesses, and the high street was not in good shape at the beginning of this. And, you know, the high street is going to be in worse shape. So I think the mental health issues as well are as much around fear. But yes, I agree. I'm a bit scared to go back. I'm excited to go back, but I'm also a bit scared because how do you look after your team, and you are responsible for them? And, you know, we do take our jobs, you know, it's a big responsibility. To make, I've got people that are pregnant, you know, I've got a guy that works with me who's just become a father. You know, there's a lot at risk, a lot at stake, and we have to get it right. And as I say, I don't think anyone will be able to pat themselves on the back at the end of it and give themselves an A star.
Yeah. I think you've made a really good point as well, that I suppose as a manager, it's such a difficult thing to manage the needs of your team and the fears of your team, and then the needs of your business and your clients, and kind of get that balance right. And I think that's quite a difficult thing for the salon owners who are watching to get their heads around.
It is. And our sector, I think, you know, isn't it interesting that our sector has, it's been the one thing that everybody's talked about the most, almost. You know, what am I going to do about my roots? What am I going to do about my waxing? Or all these appointments that and, you know, I think it's going to be, when we reboot and reset, it's going to be a reset of also your team, because I think whenever you go through something like this, you find out a lot about yourself as a person. You find out a lot about the people you work with as well. I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot that you, when you pause and you stop and you have time to think about things, you know, we will all change the way we view everybody, everything and everybody. This will affect so much going forward.
Well, actually, it's interesting. Someone else commented in the chat box here that when we were talking about staff who may be reluctant to change their shifts, well, actually, they should be very grateful to have a job to come back to, because everyone does.
Absolutely right. You know, I mean, look, businesses out there are going to go under. There isn't a sector, there is not one sector that's not going to be affected by this pandemic. Think about banking, insurance, entertainment. Every sector, everybody you know has been affected by it. So my team personally are gagging to get back to work, to earn money, to, you know, they've missed being part of the workplace. They've missed, they probably haven't missed me, to be honest, but they've missed
Sure.
they have missed. So I'm agreeing with you. You know, they should be very grateful that they've got gainful employment to go back to. And the other thing is the whole furlough scheme. I know in our sector there's been so much talk about people being self-employed and, you know, employers concerned that staff are going to leave them to work freelance and go self-employed. Well, hey, there's never been as good a time to be an employee, right? To be furloughed, to be have safety of working for a strong organisation. You know, yeah, they should be very grateful they've got a job to go back to.
Absolutely. I think we've gone through most of the questions. There's someone else over on Facebook who's asking. take 1 day per week to close later, kind of an after work beauty hours. I suppose, do you think that there could be flexibility, I suppose, about the way that we do things? Because perhaps what they're also implying is that everyone else is going to have jobs to go back to, and should we change Salon hours?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll have to. Do you know what? The only thing that's certain, and I've said this to all my team all along, the only thing that's certain about this pandemic is that nothing is certain.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's it.
Well, I think it's been so interesting, Helen, to hear your perspective. You've got a little hello from Terry McGovern. But no, it's been really interesting to hear your perspective. I think, as you've mentioned throughout, obviously you run quite a large operation, but even for salons that are kind of sole traders working at home or run small teams, there's so much to learn, and it's really interesting to hear how you're managing things and how you're doing things. So thank you. I think that's probably all we've got time for, but thanks so much for joining us, Hellen Ward, and anyone who has missed any of this will have a link live on YouTube, and we'll put it up on the website too. So thank you very much, everyone.
I'll be ranting again next month in my column.
Excellent. We can hear from you then. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.